topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Let's listen as Lorraine LaPointe, coach, therapist, educator, speaker, and founder of Head Heart Synergy, brings together another enlightened guest to inspire and motivate us to move forward, achieve our dreams and desires, so that we experience midlife awakening.
And I'm your host, Lorraine LaPointe. Today we'll enjoy another candid conversation that reveals how to bring back a sense of balance and how to find forward focus. Today, take just a few moments to join us as we explore the possibilities and the perspectives that provide us with greater inner peace, power, passion, and purpose. Because that's what I call living at the edge of fulfillment in a midlife awakening. Well, hello, welcome back. And if it's your first time here, welcome, welcome. It's great to have you. On today's show, we have a fabulous guest who says relationships are the only relationship really guaranteed until death do us part is the one that we have with ourselves. And so we need to make that relationship as fulfilling as possible. And of course, I'm in total agreement with that because we are here and we are the only one that we can't get away from. So, she's also got lots to share with us about how to have those relationships online. And one of her comments has got me really curious. And that was that you can order almost anything online these days and have it delivered. And that includes a relationship. So when she arrives, then we're going to ask her a little bit more about that, And I really agree with her that the most important relationship that we'll ever experience is the one with ourselves, especially when we consider and maintain our mental and emotional and physical fitness in our lives, because that can really help us keep our life in balance. How are you feeling about your life right now? For those I haven't met yet, I am Lorraine LaPointe, and I'm the show host, and I'm really super passionate about helping those gold star good girls, the type, that are now in midlife. And some of them are struggling with big transitions, like lots happens in our second half of life. Sometimes our relationships dissolve, sometimes they end abruptly for other reasons. And that includes things like the kids going away or friends that we haven't seen for a long time, which of course matches what's happening in a lot of our spaces at the moment. But, I really help people who are thinking about like what's next and is this all there is? Because sometimes life isn't what we hoped it would be. And at the midway point, we can have an awakening. We can realize that we're living life on the edge of fulfillment and making choices to move beyond it so that we can create a life we love without the guilt, or the negative self-talk. So most of us want to feel lighter and more joyful and bring that enjoyment and passion and power and peacefulness and purpleness. I've got purple on the brain. Purposefulness into our world. So, that makes us feel a little more in control, and that's always a good feeling. So I enjoy helping you create a daily mental fitness practice so that you can experience those 4 elements. And this program is all about meeting new guests and hearing how they have taken their lives beyond the edge of fulfillment. And what we know is that if they can move beyond the edge of fulfillment, so can you. And so Each week we broadcast through the magic of technology in all kinds of different places. And today, whether you're here live or you've caught us in the replay or you found us online, I want to say thank you for joining us. And we really want you to engage and connect. This is a show that you can help shape to match what's most useful for you. So I encourage you to find a chat wherever the chat may be where you are, because it shows up in different places for different people. And if there's, depending on the platform, of course, if there's something that makes you go, or something that you find really interesting or that you wonder about, then please interact with us. Put a question in the chat and just put the word question or in front of it so that we know it's a question. And if it's something that's that really, you think is a capturable moment, then by all means, please put a hashtag in the word nugget, because then others can share those joyful moments, those inspirational, interesting moments. And something that really resonates with you will resonate with others too. And so when you hear that information, hashtag nugget or hashtag question, and we can interact with you online, making this show for you as well. So one of the things that we're offering is a special prize if we hit 100 comments. So one of the things that we love is to recognize and to thank our producer of our show. Her name is Roxy, and she makes the magic happen behind the scenes. So she's the one that changes things on screen and makes the show run smoothly. So we can get this kicked off, the 100 comments, with you just simply saying thank you, Roxy, and recognizing all of her work that she does to make this show possible. Lots of times we don't know what's happening behind the scenes, and that's really similar sometimes to what's happening in our own consciousness or subconsciousness in our mind. And we can recognize that there's a little bit of work going on in our lives in terms of our mental fitness or our emotional fitness. And that's similar to the work that's done by today's guest, who plays a role also in being a bit of a magician in terms of her helping people find fulfillment in the magic of relationships. And so I know that we'll be really excited to hear what she has to say. And what I'd love to do right now is to see how the day is going to unfold by pulling one of our energy cards. So since our guest is not here yet, I'm just going to shuffle the cards and pull one and see what comes out. And there we are. And today's card is Feeling the World. Now, I know that it's hard to see these because of the green screen, but Feeling the World. So let's learn a little more about what that is, Feeling the World. Feeling the World is about empathy. It reminds you that you are not alone. It's a beautiful capacity to feel connectivity all around you and give you a profound sense of belonging. It can also be overwhelming, especially when you don't know where you end and the rest of the world begins. It's important to be clear about your boundaries. So if you're feeling off or drained today, or with someone that they may be siphoning your energy, and this connection suggests that it may not be good for you. But trust your instincts, take care of you, put those boundaries in place, and practice saying no in the most delightful and empathetic of ways, so you avoid the temptation to be overwhelmed, to turn off and to go numb. It's all about discernment. Discernment is necessary, and you need it to be firm but kind. That said, empathy is beautiful and important. And today we urge you to celebrate. Good morning, Erica. We urge you to celebrate the beauty of your sensitivity as well as that of others. So what an absolutely outstandingly lovely card that's called Feeling the World. And empathy plays such an important role in mental fitness. And we can talk more about that later. So today you're in the right space. We have another game for you. For those who don't know, our game works like this. You'll hear throughout the show 5 special words, and it's okay. I'll tell you what they are, but don't put them in the chat right away. What I want you to do is to keep track of them. And then at the end of the show, I'll mention, go ahead, put the words in the comments, or you can send them to me by email. And our guest today is offering something called a Values Lab introduction. So we'll hear more about that too. And we'll randomly draw a name from all of those who submit, and they'll win the Values Lab introduction. So remember, don't put the words in until the end when I ask you. And you've already heard the first word. The first word was mindful, and I said it at the top of the show. So the first word is mindful. Just jot that down somewhere. And that's why it's so good to have you here on the Edge of Fulfillment every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time on the Women for Women Network, W4WN.com, and Talk 4 TV, whichever one you are listening live right now. We're building fun and an interactive and an engaging community of like-minded people. So our Facebook group is called Mindfully Moving Forward. And if you haven't joined us there yet, I invite you to join us. And remember that our first special word today is mindful. And I want to thank you for being here, for being with us either live or at some time in the future, because the show is for you. And our guest this week is going to inspire us to gain more fulfillment from our connection with others, especially those that we create with a special someone in terms of our lives. And actually, that's the second word. The second word is connections. So jot that one down too. So now you've heard the first 2 words. You're already 40% of the way there. That's mindful and connections. And typical of many of us, through no fault of our own, we sometimes get disconnected from who we really are inside. And we lose sight of our own gifts and talents and strengths. And, that happens when life happens to us. And I'm sure many of you give us a yes in the chat if you know what I'm talking about. However, many of us, our gifts are well hidden. And sometimes it takes a while for us to discover what they really are. So after this short break, we'll connect you with today's guest, who understands that balance isn't something you find, it's something that you create as you uncover and discover your gifts, your talents, your skills. And it's different for everyone. So you are listening at the Edge of Fulfillment, W4WN, Women for Women Network. And right now we're going to take a really short break. We'll be right back.
Did you know video is the future on content? There are 3 good reasons why video is the future of content. Number 1, videos are often more engaging than simple pictures or music alone. Number 2, it's much easier to tell your story through video. Number 3, because we love to watch video, they go viral much faster. Hey, notice you're still watching right now. See how well it works. Next time we can play your video here instead. Ask Me How. Shine online on Talk 4 TV and W4WN Radio.
Hey, awesome to see you. And for those that are just joining us, let's do a really quick recap. This week, we have a special guest who's going to talk to us about relationships and how they can be more fulfilling. And she says that you can order a man online and have him delivered. So I'm really curious about that. And we're still running our contest for 5 special words throughout the show. And our first 2 words were mindful and connections, and that just helps you out if you are just joining us. So at this point, let's bring our guest on. And our guest today helps women who've always thought they had to do everything, for themselves, so that they could stop avoiding and dreading and waiting and start having a little bit of fun instead. Our guest is Lena Ehrenberg, and Lena will share some of the secrets about how we can make those relationships more fun and more enjoyable and create enrichment in our lives, even through virtual connections. So I'm really eager for you to meet Lena, and thanks for being with us today, Lena. Come on.
Hello, how are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I am awesome as well. What an excellent answer. That's amazing.
Yeah. And you know what? One of the things that I know being a hypnotherapist is that our brain doesn't know the difference. So if we say, oh, I feel terrible, it's an awful day, our brain goes, oh, she feels terrible. Let's feel that way. And if you lie to your own brain and say, I feel awesome, your brain goes, oh, wait, the chemicals for awesome are different. So,
right. Well, and what's interesting about that is just our thoughts. We think that something happens and then we have a thought about it. But the reality is we have a thought about what we want to have happen. And that's what we create, right? And that's a little bit of what we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely. I mean, I know that you and I have had several awesome conversations, really great conversations. One of the ones that I'd really love to hear a little bit more about is our prize today for the 5 special words is something called a Values Lab introduction. And I think our viewers and our watchers would really like to know a little bit more about that and what that's all about. Can you share that with us?
Yes. And the first thing I'm going to share is values is the 3rd word.
Yes, right? It is awesome.
Okay. So we're 3 words in already, which is amazing. So this is what I've really learned about myself and going through the process of starting out as someone who didn't date at all. And then didn't date very much, and then went through every kind of step of the journey I think that's possible to go through, and am now in a position to really understand what has helped me create really strong, enriched relationships. And I'm not even talking about simply romantic relationships. As I've brought myself through this process, all of my relationships have become so much stronger, so much fuller. And I mean, I look around my world and see the relationships that I have with my family and my friends. I am surrounded by amazing women. And all of the relationships good morning, Erica. Thank you. All of the relationships that I have are so much fuller, and it starts with the relationship that I have created with myself. And the first thing that I do to start out any of my clients who are coaching with me, who want to eventually create enriched romantic relationships for themselves, is we do a values and a lifestyle assessment for them. Because what really works for you. Look, here's the thing. I know you. And so knowing you, I have a good idea of who your viewers are. And you are not people who just want any old thing in life.
Exactly.
You don't, right? You don't want just a relationship. You want a really fulfilling relationship. And the way that that is going to come about is for you to start with really knowing yourself and what you are committed to, what you're committed to doing in the world, what your purpose is in the world, what is really important and valuable to you in your life. And then from that, I kind of look at it as a kind of a diving board. And from that place, then you jump off into the world of dating and meeting, and then decide what qualities in a partner will be the best match for my values and for the way I want to live my life and go through the rest of my life. And it's amazing. It's such powerful work.
So for whoever wins this prize this week, it's something that they're great value. I mean, it's not like you can put a price tag on it, because understanding who you are and the values are so important, and it's when our values get out of whack that our relationships go off the rails. And I'm going to be super vulnerable right now. And just tell a little snippet of a story about what happened this week. So with my partner this week, I gave myself permission to be playful at the beginning of the week and have some fun. And the difference in our relationship was remarkable. And then I slowly, as the week went on, slipped back into the mindset of like, must work, got to get things done. Here's my to-do list, that kind of thing, to the point where I became so focused on work that I missed a really important day for him yesterday. Yesterday was his namesake day, because his name is John, and it was John the Baptist's day. So I totally missed that, and I really hurt him. So again, that's on me. That's not on him. So I want to give a very public apology to John, because he is so important in my life, and I messed up. And discernment versus judgment. I don't know if we want to get into that conversation a little bit, but discernment is, I can say I messed up. That doesn't mean that I'm a terrible, awful person. It means I messed up, and I will have an opportunity to improve the relationship by changing myself to focus more.
Yes, and what you're doing is the step that so many people miss. And I call it fascination versus judgment, right? Because the minute I move into judgment, or as we prefer to think of it, beating ourselves up, overdoing something, right? The minute I start to say, why did I do that? I shouldn't have done that. That was terrible. That was terrible can morph very quickly into I'm terrible.
Yeah.
And what I've learned is that we don't want to move towards something that feels terrible, right? So we're creating even more separation, not only from ourselves in general, but we're moving away from what the lesson of that particular situation is. And right, when we move away from that situation and we don't want to think about it anymore because we think it was so terrible and it was irreparable, well, then I can't learn how to make it different if it ever comes up the next time. And right.
Yeah. And people when you step into, like, you think it's going to be so painful to recognize that you've made an error or that someone has hurt you. And so you're absolutely right, Lena. People tend to step away, and And mentally, if you're mentally fit, what you know is you move towards that discomfort and through it, because on the other side is something so much richer and so much deeper and more connected than you ever thought possible. And that's, and connection is what we so crave. And that's why it's one of our special words today.
It is. And
mindfully connected and having values. So we've actually done the three. So.
And I just want to take a little brief. I love the card that you pulled this morning, because our feelings are what propel all of our actions. And our actions are how we are perceived by other people, right? So I love that you are talking about how we're feeling the world right now, and the connectivity and the belonging. I mean, and we certainly are living in a world right now where on the surface, in one way, it seems like we're very disconnected, but in another way, we're finding we're even more connected than we perhaps used to be.
Well, the virtual world, I mean, it's exploded because out of necessity, because we can't connect together as easily in terms of one-on-one or in small groups, and not advisable to do it, if you're not comfortable doing that. So the virtual world has become for many a new space to play. And it does have some opportunities that were not available to us in our person-to-person meetings. And I had somebody say to me the other day, but you can't really connect with somebody virtually. My experience is different, and I would love to hear your story about how you've used the virtual world to enhance relationships.
Yeah. Well, I've kind of been joking around with people for the last few months, saying that for all these years, we only thought we were dating online, right? Now we really are dating online. So it's just a whole different world. So, your reference earlier to saying that we could have a man delivered. So this is what I've learned since March of last year. We can now type onto our computers or on our phones. We can have groceries delivered. We can have cleaning products. We can have clothing. We can have furniture. We can have books and entertainment and all of these things delivered to our homes. And I said, and we can also have men delivered. And the way that we do that is through dating apps, really, or, apps or online sites. I don't know. Some people see those as separate things, but I was able to make a connection with someone over the course of the last few months. And it started out on a dating app. And it, and the trajectory of that is when you're on an app or on a website, you see someone's photo and that piques a curiosity. And then you read their profile and that piques more curiosity. And then if there is interest, you message back and forth. And if there's more interest, and hopefully there would be, or at least the idea of curiosity. And that is what's so key, is to really be in a state of curiosity, and try to just wonder, who is this person and what more might I learn about them? And then move on to phone calls. And here's where it got a little different in the past few months, because, before a year ago, I would say that, you want to have at least one, maybe a couple of phone calls, and then see if you're still curious enough and want to meet this person in person. But
I just want to notate, John just talked about borrowing a paragraph.
Uh-huh.
I'll give that story after you're finished. What you're saying is so helpful to people who have never connected with someone online. So
yeah. And it definitely, there's a technique to doing that. And I think key in that is curiosity, and also, and this is another thing that I say to people a lot. At each step of the process, look for the green flags.
Mm.
We all know what the other flags are about. We don't always get what we deserve in life, but most often we get what we expect. And when we are used to training ourselves to look for the red flags, we start to expect to find red flags. And what, red stops us, right? It's like a stoplight. In traffic, red means stop, green means go. So what I want to offer to all of you is to start to train yourself to look for the good. Start to train yourself to expect good. And once you start to elevate your expectation, you will find more and more good to be excited about and to keep being curious about. And so that profile will lead to messaging, which will lead to a phone call. And I'm a big proponent of phone calls. Back in the day before March, a lot of people would say, just message people and then set up a date. And even back then, I wasn't a proponent of that because I think that there's so much information that we can use in a phone call. I know I need to hear someone's voice.
Yeah, the tones, the
tone,
inflections, the
and
energy.
exactly. That's how we understand humor. And I think that people don't realize that we understand humor by hearing tone. And when we're just reading something on a screen, there's no tone and it's very flat. And we tend to take those messages that we read on a screen literally at face value very seriously. And so I love to have a conversation, and I'm not talking about texting conversations either. Have a verbal conversation on the phone. And so here's what's new now during this period of time. Those phone conversations might then move to an interim stage of video, right? It might be through a phone app or through an online video platform or whatever it is, but we want to see someone and now see their face and see how we feel and how we interact and how they interact. And then if you both decide to go forward and feel that you're doing it safely and responsibly, meeting in a public place and taking a walk. And it's really a lovely, low-key, low-tech way to make a connection. And that's what dates are for.
Well, and I love what you're presenting here in terms of have the phone call first. Because a phone call first allows you to really key into that sense of hearing and that sense of energy and understanding who they are before the video. See, I might have jumped to video first because I tend to use video a lot, but I love the idea that you're presenting of having that phone call first. Because then sometimes our eyes, it's like food. So, sometimes food just looks so good. And then we indulge ourselves and realize that we've overindulged. And that can be not good. So a phone call is like having a little taste
and
before
I think,
the meal.
Yes, it's a little taste, and it's just the building the process. I think that's what it is, because there are a lot of people who disagree with me very vociferously, and that is absolutely their choice. But a lot of people say, no, but it's got to be about, I've got to meet someone, and it's got to be, in person, and then I'll know. But that's looking for some kind of, I don't even know what to call it really, some kind of chemical reaction or something that people feel like that they're going to have. And another, this is all in line with starting from yourself and knowing yourself and learning how to take in information about someone and start, I love the word you use, discernment. Start to discern, who is this person? And is this person a good quality match for me? Will we be a well-aligned couple going down the road as we get further together? And so there's so much really necessary information that we can learn in the front end.
Yeah. Actually, and you were talking about red flags and green flags. If I can share just, I'll make the story brief because I can always go into details later. But I actually met my partner, John, online and through an online dating app. And I had put the intention out there to meet somebody that I basically had an idea in mind, and I thought, I'm just going to put it out to the universe and set the intention. Well, I had a horrible experience, as you can have online, with a man that I interacted with who did not exist. So it was one of those dating scam profiles, and his name happened to be John. So I was really bitten and bitten in terms of like that hurt. It could have been much worse. So what I did is I was looking for a paragraph online to say, I will only communicate online. And that's another thing I want to say to our viewers and watchers. All of the interactions at first should be kept within the app.
Yes.
Don't move to a private messaging system.
Yes.
Stay in the app, because if they're not willing to stay in the apps have to have some safety mechanisms built into them. And if you move on to private message, if they're insisting on moving on to private message, then that's a red flag.
That is a red flag. If someone, and especially if it's their first volley, right? Yes. Especially if they immediately, no, yeah, absolutely. And look, I'm not saying there are no red flags, but right, but this is all part of that process of learning how to manage that and make that work for you.
Well, on the phone call also, like if they say, well, let's talk through Messenger, or let's talk on texting or something, then I would say, let's have a phone call first. Because if it's a romance scam, they won't call.
Right. And also, I want to say also that get an internet phone number.
Yes.
Get another phone number that you can use,
or Skype,
or
something.
Yeah.
Anyway, to finish my story so that I didn't leave you with the, oh my goodness, romance scam piece. I came across a paragraph written by a man who was not within my parameters at all. And I got an invitation to an event. And before I deleted, I read his profile, and he had this amazing paragraph that said, I will not communicate outside of the dating app. So I wrote to him, and I merely said, hi, you have an amazing paragraph that I hope you don't mind I steal, because I'm going to, and that's what John said, like someone borrowing your paragraph, right? And that was the beginning of our relationship. He wasn't even in my parameters. He was too young, for one. But that's what got us talking and interacting and communicating. And then we followed, not so much the phone call, which I would definitely recommend you do, but we followed exactly what you said. We had a number of weeks of like interacting within the app before we ever connected personally.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that was 6.5 years ago.
I love it. I love it. Congratulations on
Thank
that. And you're the proof, because what you did was, knowing yourself so well, you connected with that part of him that really represented himself
Yeah.
in his paragraph.
I'd done a lot of values work. As you said, that values lab introduction for the keywords is gold, because I had done a lot of values work prior to meeting him. And I set the intention, not for who I wanted, but the intention that I set was that I would meet somebody that resonated deeply with me. And there's no perfect relationship. Like, that's the other thing. I mean, if anybody who says, I want a man that's got this, and I want a man that's got that, and I want, it's likely that the match that you find next might not have any of those things, but they might match your values.
Well, here's the thing about those things, right? And I love that you brought that up, is, we've heard about the list. And and not just women, a lot of men have lists too. And we call them our values lists or our qualities lists. But what those, when you take a good look at the items on that list, they really are more like shopping lists. And they're attributes.
Yeah.
And they're not qualities, and they're not values. And I'll give you an example of that. Someone might say, I want a partner who has a particular title, because I think that means something about.
Yeah, they need to be an executive in C-suite.
They need to be an executive, or they need to have an MBA, or they need to be a doctor or an attorney. And let's take the example of a doctor. And my feeling is, you don't live with your partner's job title. You live with their work ethic and the requirements of their position. So you
want them to care about people.
Well, you want them to care about people, and you might think that that's a wonderful thing, but let's go back to, I said, we do a values assessment and a lifestyle assessment. Now, if you want to be married to a doctor, and you want your partner to be available at all times every weekend so you can go do family things together, you have to realize that a doctor, depending on what type of medicine they might be in, they might be on call every other weekend. Or if they are a surgeon and they are responsive, which we want a caring person to be, then when they get an emergency phone call at 11 o'clock at night, they're going to go and respond to that emergency. And so that's the difference between having a list of attributes that you think are important and really understanding your values and looking for someone with qualities and values that align with yours.
Yeah. And finding a relationship is what this show is all about. So I'm really glad that that was clarified because it's so important not to believe, like, it's important to know what you think you want in a relationship and maybe develop the shopping list, but realize that that's not, you don't really connect with the shopping list. No. And sometimes on the shopping list, we put things on the shopping list that when we get, it's kind of like asking for something, and then when you get it, it's not what you want.
Right.
you know? So I'm just a little heads up about that for some people. But I heard the fourth word, so I want to get it out there for people, and that was relationship. So we've had our fourth word now. And of course, our fourth word, jot it down, is relationship. And there's one more to come. And we've actually heard that, but we'll mention it in a moment or two. So we're getting close to the end of our time. Is there anything, Lena, that you have not gotten out to our listeners that you really, any messages for them that you want to share?
Well, I've really been thinking about this, and I was thinking about it in terms of, what do I wish I had known earlier in my life? Because we're talking about those of us who are now in midlife, right? And so I think that what I wish I could have learned earlier is to value what I think of myself more than what other people think of me.
Yeah.
Or actually what I think other people think of me.
Yeah. So I heard once somebody say, what other people think of you is none of your business.
Exactly.
It's their business.
Exactly.
And that gets back to what we said at the top of the show is you say the most important relationship you ever have is with yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And it part of that is so tied with the fact that when we are raised hearing that we are smart girls and we get praised for figuring things out and no matter how long it takes and no matter how hard it is, we're going to figure this out and we're going to do it ourselves. We think that we have to go through the rest of our lives that way. And we don't understand that asking for help and looking for guidance and accountability and support throughout our journey can not only help us save so much time, but it can also really contribute to having a much more fulfilling experience in all areas of our lives, because we're bringing in other people's knowledge and wisdom and just like really shoring up all that we are already bringing to it.
Yeah, those gold star good girls, you don't have to do it alone.
Yep, I call them mine are smart girls. I grew up hearing that. You're such a smart girl.
But, being a smart woman means understanding that it's okay to reach out. It's okay to get support. It's okay to get help. And in fact, it's better not to do things alone because then you lose out on the richness that's available to you from others. But I want to thank you so much for coming on our show today, Lena. This has been so much fun. And I always enjoy speaking with you. And I so appreciate your offer to our listeners. So the last word, I won't forget to give it to them. The last word is dating. So you've had the 5 special words now. So go ahead and put them in the chat. And thank you for being here today on the Edge of Fulfillment at a Midlife Awakening. And at this point, I'd like you to remember that we offer you an opportunity to join like-minded people in other Gold Star Good Girls as we improve our daily mental fitness and support each other in the Facebook group called Mindfully Moving Forward. And I invite you to come and join us and to let us know how you're doing in there and get support. That's a great place to ask for support if you'd like some and get some help. So
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lena.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll say see you next week on the Edge of Fulfillment. To our viewers and listeners here on the Women for Women Network, W4WN.com and Talk for TV. Bye for now, everyone.